It is Sunday, February 18th, 2017, and welcome to Flicker Effect. This is episode 241. I'm David Lott. Joining me this week is Bobby Jackson.
What's up, everybody?
Yasha Wilson.
Hey. What's going on, everyone?
And Michelle Hillard.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Hello.
This week, we basically have one thing to talk about, and that is Black Panther. We are going to be taking a look at the new film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We'll do our spoiler-free thoughts at first, as we always do. For those of you who have not seen the movie yet, we will eventually dig deep into spoiler-filled territory, and before we do, we will give everyone plenty of heads up, so do not worry if you haven't seen the movie yet. We will warn you. With that, anybody got anything before we do this?
No, man, I don't have anything. I'm ready.
You ready? How many times have you seen it, Bobby?
Oh, you know what? I almost saw it 3 times, but I only saw it the 2 times, so I probably will see it at least once more before it leaves theaters.
Yeah. And you only got in twice this weekend, maybe?
I know. I'm slipping. I'm sorry, guys.
Get your life together, bro. What are you doing?
I don't know. Apparently not seeing this movie enough.
Priorities, Bobby. Priorities. Dude.
All right. Well, we always start off these episodes by talking about the box office, and I know we're only talking about Black Panther this week, but why not start off with the box office numbers? It, of course, came in at number 1 for the weekend here in the U.S. Its 3-day estimated take is $192 million. It is apparently on track for a 4-day holiday weekend take of $218.
Oh my God!
It's doing very well for itself. That makes it the largest February opening of all time, the largest President's Day weekend opening of all time, and this one still blows me away because this isn't the first time we've talked about this, but it gives Disney 8 of the top 10 domestic openings of all time.
God,
this is ridiculous.
Oh my God!
My God.
Disney does own the world.
You know they're probably going to push into number 9 once Infinity War comes out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna own the top 10 easily.
Within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this still blows me away. Like I know we've had a lot of MCU movies, but this is the 18th release in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that it's been that many films. It's the 9th to open over 100 million. This is the second largest opening in the MCU, behind only the Avengers.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Behind the Avengers.
Wow.
And the Avengers came out in 2012, and we've had, at least another 13 movies since then? 12 movies since then? So the fact that no other movie has got to that title other than Avengers 2, which was right after that one. And of course, it's a team movie, so you're kind of like, yeah. But for a solo movie, for all these other movies that have come out, the fact that Black Panther is now number 2 is pretty incredible.
And not just that, but this is something that I touched on when we were talking about Jurassic World when it opened a little while ago. And Michelle, you seemed a little blown away by this when I brought it up. If this movie traditionally drops off like a movie does, 50%, next weekend it's going to make about $100 million. So that's if it just drops off traditionally for just the 50%, and people still go and see it. The movie's still going to gross $100 million, which is respectable for any opening movie nowadays, which is insane.
That is insane.
So it's
really
like, even if it doesn't drop off, say it drops off 60%,
right?
You're still looking around the $85-90 million range for a movie.
And any film would be happy to have that as their total for a film.
And that's huge. That's huge.
That's insane. Oh my God.
All right, let's dig into our thoughts on this movie. We haven't talked about it yet, and as always, we'll use the poll to decide who goes first.
Seeing your hand go into the bowl, I'm sad.
You're sad.
I'll be honest. I'm really hoping it's not me because I haven't really put my thoughts on
You
it.
always hope it's not you.
Do you ever hope it's you? Has there ever been a movie?
When do you ever
like,
say, you know what?
Man, I really want first crack at this one.
I think I've ever.
I really don't want it right now because I'm still putting my thoughts together in my head and freaking out right now.
You're always putting your thoughts together.
Not always. There are times I come in here and I have notes and I'm good to go.
All right. Well, you've probably made it a foregone conclusion that it's going to be you.
No, I'm screwed now.
But it's not. It's actually me.
Hey now.
Wow. That's a rare one.
That is a rare one. And I haven't put my thoughts together either. So here I go. I'm going to win it.
Wait. Okay. So when did you and Michelle see the movie?
We saw the movie Friday in the middle of the day at noon.
At noon on a Friday. In Dolby Digital, which should be no surprise.
Yep, Dolby Cinema. Yep. It was, as always, I pretty much live in that screen. We only have one in Orlando, and
it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's the best theater in town, in my opinion.
It's the best screen to ever see anything on.
Anything.
Actually, before you jump in, David, because you mentioned seeing the movie in the Dolby. Yeah, I don't know. We've all talked about it, but I don't remember. Yasha, have you seen a movie in the Dolby theater?
I have now. I saw Black Panther on Saturday.
Oh, what a good first one out the gate. Nice choice.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get there. So I just was curious because I remember thinking me, Michelle, and David have tooted the horn of the Dolby Theater for a while now. And I don't recall, as I was thinking about it, hearing Yasha ever say if he's gone. So that'll be interesting to hear those thoughts as well. But back to you, David.
All right. Well, I think on this podcast, I've mentioned that I half jokingly mentioned that I was worried about this movie purely because the trailers were so good. And then I was thinking, God, this could be terrible because now I've been burned twice, I feel, this year by Marvel movies that had really excellent trailers. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, there's no way these movies could be bad. And I was not a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I definitely was not a fan of Thor Ragnarok. And, but with that, and I say half jokingly because I was only worried about it in that sense, even though those trailers look so great for Black Panther. I was like, well, I don't know. Those trailers look good too. And look where I went, ended up with those. But, I'm pleased to say Black Panther was excellent. I definitely did not fall into disappointment after seeing Black Panther at all. It is everything everyone is raving about. It, I mean, it says so much. It's definitely one of the most political Marvel movies I feel like I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot to say, a lot of amazing things to say. I felt really, really good when I walked out of that theater about the Marvel film that they put together. This is actually the first Ryan Coogler film I've seen. Unfortunately, I haven't seen Creed. And he did Fruitvale Station, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that either. And but this was quite good. The score was excellent. I know I always kind of make a point to talk about that, and I was pretty happy with the score. All of the acting is good. I don't know how else to rave about it. I mean, I could get nitpicky about things that I didn't like just for the sake of nitpicking a couple things. I mean, if I had some nitpicks about this movie, well, there were times where I felt like the look of Black Panther and what's his name when he's in his suit,
Killmonger.
Yeah, when they move around, they had a kind of digital look to them sometimes. Like, and I don't know how often they were computer generated or at least computer generated, kind of enhanced or what in the production. But there were times the way they moved, it was like, it kind of looks slightly funky. I don't know if I'm the only one that felt that way. I'm kind of curious to hear everyone else's thoughts on that. The only other thing maybe I can nitpick on, and this is something, Bobby, you and I kind of touched on off air once. You and I were talking about, like, I feel like the only thing that could go wrong in this is if they try to do too much humor in this. This movie feels like the kind of movie that really doesn't need a whole lot of that Marvel humor, And I'm pleased to say it doesn't have too much. Like, it's got humor in it, and I feel like for the most part, it works pretty well. There was one or two moments, though, where I was like, that was pretty cheesy. One of them I'll mention. There's only one I can think of, and I'll mention it when we talk about spoilers. That I kind of rolled my eyes at. I was like, okay, that was kind of stupid. But for the most part, I think the humor worked. So luckily, that's not really the case. But again, there's still just a couple times. So I was like, okay, there comes the Marvel humor that I didn't really need in that moment. But all right, fine. It's not that big a deal. But overall, I thought the movie was excellent. I've only seen it once, so I can't really... If somebody were to ask me how I feel about it compared to all the other Marvel movies and where would I put it in the 18 Marvel films that we've seen so far, that would be tough. I haven't thought enough about that. So I'm just kind of covering that in case anyone's wondering. If anyone's going to ask me, I'm going to tell you I don't know. But it's way up there. It's this Black Panther was quite good. That's my brief spoiler-free thoughts on that movie. Next up is Michelle.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sorry. Go for it.
So I guess the best thing, I'll just come out the gate and kind of say, yeah, I think I could easily say I loved it. Like, it was ridiculously good. Like, just crazy good. The storyline, I think, was done. I think it was quite fantastic. I like that you're kind of catching up with what's slightly been going on with T'Challa, but you catch up on his past. And then, in a way, the movie sets you up for more in the future of Marvel and where his role will be within the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just kind of things to come. So I loved it. I thought the storyline was really great. I mean, I think it goes without speaking that I absolutely love the visuals that happen in this film. I love just like the sets and the colors, and I am so just like, yes. I get so excited thinking like and watching just what in amazingly strong and intelligent and just nimble and athletic women are in this film. Like, there were points I was just trying not to like stand up and clap. I was like, God damn, this is awesome. Like, it's just so good. It's so good. I will say, yeah, when it comes to the humor, I kind of feel like it was a little lacking. I feel like they could have had just a smidge more humor in it. But I'm at the same time, though, I'm also just really happy they didn't overdo it. Nothing really felt forced to me. It just, I don't know. It was really good. We'll probably talk more in spoilers, but there was a couple of joking moments that were really awesome. Like, I can quickly say there was one moment between T'Challa and his general and what's his name, Everett Ross. And it's this whole moment between the three of them, and I was just like, oh my God, that is amazing. That is hilarious. I thought it was done brilliantly. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of new faces that a lot of people don't know of yet in I guess kind of film right now that not only make their appearance known, but they did a really standout job. The actress who played T'Challa's sister, is that Letitia Wright? That girl was killing it, dude. Like, I was like, wow, I'm very impressed with her. She's definitely a new up and coming young actress, and I think we're going to see more with her in the cinematic universe. But I'm looking forward to seeing more from her just in general as an actress. Like, I thought she did really, really well. But yeah, Chadwick Boseman was excellent in this. And then I'm trying to think who else do I really like. What's her name? Danai Gurira. Yes. Oh, so good. And she gets put in such a tough position in the film. Her character, so good. I don't know. I'm just happy and trying not to just stand up and clap at points in the theater. I was just like, this is happening. It was good. It's good storytelling. Yeah, the visuals I think are spectacular. When we get to spoilers, my like not happies are just so very, very few. So yeah, that's what I got.
I will say one thing I forgot. I feel like I was thrown off because I had to go first. I wasn't expecting that. I haven't thought enough about this, but I feel like this probably has the best villain we've seen in an MCU film.
Well, because he's so relatable. Like, you understand
his motivation is so... It so works, and we've had so many villains in the MCU that have been so disappointing, and it's been a common kind of gripe about Marvel movies that as good as they are, the villains haven't been so great.
Right.
And he is so good, and his motivation for what he's doing makes sense, and he's complex, and he has moments where you feel for him, and the villain in this movie is really good. Michael B. Jordan did an amazing job. So,
yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. And even the kind of side villain in this film, played by Andy Serkis, Ulysses Claw. You know, he's an entertaining villain in that he's just such a character.
He's very showy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's this movie's just awesome.
All right. Who's next? Yasha.
Oh man, I was really hoping it'd be Bobby, but I mean, what can I say? I mean, you guys are both right. I've seen the movie twice now. I saw it second time within 24 hours. We talked about seeing it on Dolby Digital, and I mean, I guess I hadn't realized that I hadn't seen anything on Dolby Digital yet before. And the first time I watched the movie, I was kind of like disappointed with the sound effects because I'm watching it, and I actually saw the first time with my mom, and I leaned over. I was like, what happened to the sound? Because it felt like everything just kind of dropped off. And then I went and saw it the second time, and I saw it with my girlfriend, and it was like, okay, this is what it's supposed to sound like. Hell yeah, let's do this. And the sound quality was excellent. So that's one. But you're not wrong. I mean, this movie was so much more political than I expected it to be. I thought it was fantastic. There was so much more. There wasn't a need for more humor. I personally felt that what they had in there fit perfectly with the moments that they needed it for. Michael B. Jordan is a beast when it comes to being a bad guy. I hope he gets another role where he gets to play a bad guy, because he really just owned the hell out of that. He was complicated, but at the same time, not complicated in his motivations. You knew exactly where he was coming from. He spoke on it. He was very preachy on it. He knew exactly what he wanted and where he was going with it. And his motivations were very dark, but they were very, almost warranted for what he's been through. And Ulysses Claw, like Serkis, was just entertaining. Like, they both had two very different types of motivation. One was motivated by simply self-serving, and the other almost felt like he wanted to serve others. And you can take that in both facets of serve others their just due, and serve others that needed help to serve their captors or take care of their captors or whatnot. Chadwick Boseman was amazing. His supporting cast around him was amazing. Angela Bassett, I mean, what can you say? She was Angela Bassett, but his sister was really good. The name escapes me, but his general was fantastic. The fight
Daniel
scene,
Kaluuya.
Thank you, were just fantastic in the movie, with how in sync and uniform they were together, acting as an army. And I just dug the hell out of the movie. I honestly might be able to see it one more time in the theater before it leaves. But hell, I might even do it tomorrow. Who knows? But the movie was fantastic. I was genuinely pleased with it. The language that they spoke, the costumes, the music, everything to me was just, I was thoroughly impressed and really pleased with how Ryan Coogler, came about and helped write and bring this movie to light and make it as important and as much of and deliver really as a Marvel movie, but at the same time as a lot of political messages in there that are important. And it was fun because I was sitting next to some kids and just watching their reaction when the movie was going. Like, they were dancing when the music was going on, and then I heard one of them. These are young kids, like maybe 10. Lean over when Michael B. Jordan said something, and leaned over to his friend or brother or whatever, and was like, I hate him so much. He's so bad. And I'm just like, I was like, this is great. Like, they were just so into the movie. And, you know, it was a really fun time. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And the world that they created in Wakanda was fantastic.
Oh my God. Dude, the CGI and they made the major city portion of Wakanda, like the whole thing. Oh my Lord, that was amazing. And I'm glad that the first time you see it, it's them flying into it, because you see everything. Oh.
Yeah, the mixture of technology and like old world country that they kind of mixed with it was really, really a nice balance.
Yeah,
like
I loved
was. Like I thought it was a fantastic story. It was great. Like I was really impressed. And it just didn't let me down. With all the hype that it started to get, the closer it got to the release date, I think I can speak for everybody here where we all kind of just started to have a little bit of that worry where it's just like, God, please deliver. Please deliver.
That tickle of anxiety that happens. I know with David, because, you know, everybody was so hyped up about Guardians 2 and so hyped about Thor. Like, I think he was starting to get the little bit of like, oh God, is this 3 in a row for me?
It was. So you were just sit there and you're just watching and you're just like, man, please just deliver. Please let me really just like this. Please deliver on all the hype that you guys are genuinely pumping into this movie. Make me a believer. And you walk out, and I think everybody walks out as a believer, and they're just like, all hail the king, because Black Panther really came in and reigned.
I will say, I think I also went into it with the perfect kind of set of expectations when I finally sat down in the theater, because I don't know about you guys, but I haven't read any reviews of this movie even to this point, but I couldn't avoid all of the just kind of buzz. I've watched some YouTube videos about, you know, some film like YouTube videos where they've done reviews of it and talked a little bit about it, kind of hinted at, you know, their thoughts because they got early press screenings. And I feel like most of the reaction I was getting was very positive, but it wasn't like through the roof, like, oh my God, this is like the best Marvel movie ever kind of reaction. So I went into it like, okay, this is going to be solid, but I'm not going to get my expectations like thinking that this is, you know, basically going to be the best Marvel movie I've ever seen. So, yeah, I think I went into it just the right, perfect amount of expectations, because I don't know, like I felt like every person I heard talk about the movie, it was like, oh, it's a solid movie, it's good, but it wasn't like, oh my God, it is amazing, it's going to blow your mind. Maybe if I'd gone into it like that, I might have been like maybe a little disappointed, but the movie is still great, so I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have been.
See, that's how I felt too. I went in, I didn't go in with like these high expectations, like I need this to be the best Marvel movie that I've ever seen.
Right.
I really just went in there hoping that I would enjoy the film. And I think a lot of the times as I do go into films, sometimes the hype gets ahead of me, but for the most part, I try to go in there as an open mind and like, this is what I want to enjoy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the next part of the story is. And I walked in there with this expectation of like, I just want a good movie. Like, portray the movie in a positive light, you know, have fun with it, be a Marvel movie, set us up for more. And with that, they did. And I just, you know, I kind of went in there optimistic and just was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. Because I'll be the first to admit, I know a little bit about the Black Panther, but I don't know a great deal. I don't really remember reading too much when I was a kid. So with that said, it's like I went in there kind of blind-eyed with like, okay, I know a little bit about the story. I've read some of the comics and stuff like that, but nothing like to my knowledge of like Fantastic Four or Spider-Man or even Iron Man, you know, the Avengers. Like I know them. I know some of like them in detail and Thor in detail, but I couldn't tell you Black Panther. I'm going to have to do research to see how related or how close to accurate Killmonger is to the actual story when it comes to the comic book. And I'm sure there are some major drastic changes, but I don't know those yet.
Right. All right, Bobby, you get the final crack at it. What did you think of Black Panther?
Okay, so before I get into that, I do want to correct myself when Yasha said the general it's actually Okoye, which is Denai Guerrero's part. So I misspoke. I just wanted to correct that. So
Daniel plays Wakabi.
Yeah. He's the same person who was in Get Out, the actor.
And he just won a BAFTA.
So let's see, where are my thoughts? I guess for my part of it, I think I did go in with high expectations based on a lot of the early buzz and from the press screenings. So I didn't go in tempered, but I'm happy to say I came out feeling just as good as about the movie as a lot of the people who saw it before, and I didn't feel let down or disappointed in any kind of way. And so I think maybe, as you're saying, David, they didn't overhype it to the point where it got you to these unrealistic expectations of it. It just got you, well, at least it got me more excited for it. So I was absolutely happy coming out of it. And I just remember thinking, I don't recall the last time I've ever gone to the movies and came out of it feeling proud of a movie. And that's how I felt after I came out. I felt proud to have seen it. I felt proud for the people who made it, proud for the fact that it was a comic book movie and it had this profound message and aspect about what it was doing in front of the camera and behind the camera, and just on a whole level playing field and what it can mean for the future. Because as I'm sure if you've been looking at social media at all this weekend and for this past few days, it's not just been about the movie Black Panther. It's been about the experience of having this movie in a time where there's not much of this type of thing out there. We had last year in the Oscars, you had Best Picture movie for Moonlight winning, which was a Black director, a mostly Black cast as well in that movie. And then you also have this year or last year and this year's Oscar contender of Get Out, which is Jordan Peele. And again, it's this movie from a Black experience and telling it from a Black perspective. And then you have Black Panther come out, where it's this big blockbuster superhero type movie with a Black director and again a mostly Black cast. And it's you feel the shift, the change, and it may not happen all at once, but you feel that there's something. And it's what this movie represents is representation and how important it is. And I think that going forward, it opens up those doors more, and not just for Black representation. It's like, if I want to see the next superhero movie and it's with a Hispanic character as the lead, getting to see that viewpoint, getting to see that character and that experience, for me, I will enjoy it, but I know how much it would mean for someone else who's Hispanic watching that movie, or same for someone who's Asian and you get that Asian superhero that comes out. It's just always a good thing to see different types of films and different perspectives from different people. So the movie itself has all these things going for it. And then if you just dissect that part away from it and just take it as a comic book movie, it does all the things that you want to see in a comic book movie. It gives you a good villain, it gives you a good story, gives you good action, and it hits on all those points. And I think one of the good things about this movie is that we know that there's a ton of movies that came before it from Marvel, and yet this movie stands on its own to where you don't have to have seen all those other movies. It obviously enriches and enhances the experience if you've seen them, but it's not dependent on that. And so I think it does a really good job of being an entry point to some people who maybe haven't been checking out these movies to now, if they're interested, they go back and watch Civil War and see Black Panther when he was first in that, or some of the other movies as well, and be able to kind of ride this train as we're coming into the final stops, at least within these phases that we've had. So I think it does those things as well. And also from that comic book standpoint, it's not like it doesn't reinvent the wheel or even try to. It's not like it's trying to be Logan or Deadpool and do something completely different. It's telling a traditional classic hero's journey from a Black perspective, and I think it handles it really well. And Wakanda feels like a real live place, so much as any other place that you've seen in any of these other movies. It just feels lived in. It feels very real, really realized and vibrant, alive, and it just makes you want to spend more time there and see more with these people. They have such a great and tremendous cast around Chadwick Boseman of people who help fill out this crew, his people, starting with his sister, played by Letitia Wright as Shuri. She's so dynamic and likable in this movie that you absolutely want to see more of her going forward, because she is so just has that spark of energy. I mean, she has such tech that she makes that Tony Stark would probably be jealous if he saw half the things that she's doing, because it's just she's intelligent, and she has this thing that no other people have access to make even better things than probably Tony Stark can make, because he doesn't have hands-on vibranium. But it's just really, really cool in the things that she does, and everybody has their part that they play, and they play it very, very well.
But she's got a good sass to her that I think plays well off of T'Challa's very serious sometimes. Like, he gets almost too serious, and she's like, dude, lighten up. Like, you know, she's like, you can be serious, but you don't have to be that serious all the time. Like, and she plays on him. It's like it's a kid sister thing. Like, she pokes at him perfectly. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. They have such a great rapport back and forth as brother and sister that you could just literally see a movie with just them two and riffing back and forth and doing their thing. It's just so great.
Oh yeah.
And the aspect that you guys were talking about with Michael B. Jordan as well, him and Ryan Coogler work so well together. And obviously, starting from Fruitvale Station into Creed 2, Creed, and just seeing those movies and how well they work together, they just have this shorthand. And Michael B. Jordan as a villain in this really excels. You just see him and you instantly get where he's coming from, because he just has so much fire and anger in him, but justified in a way that you don't always see with villains. And they've always said that the best villain is the relatable villain, where you can't really fault where they're coming from, but it helps you to understand where their point of view is from, even though they're taking it to an extreme. And in some ways, he made me feel like how when I listen to Tupac music sometimes, Tupac can get you in that mode that he's feeling because of how he's rhyming. And if he's angry, it makes you feel angry. That's how Killmonger is. It's like Michael B. Jordan, the way he plays him, he's on 10, like the whole time. He's just angry, and he wants his revenge for things that he feels he's been wronged by. And so you get that aspect, and you just take it all in, and you just really feel for the character in a way that you don't always get in some of the other Marvel movies. And Andy Serkis, as I think David mentioned, was great, and Yasha mentioned. I really, really liked Andy Serkis in this movie. He looked like he was having so much fun with this character, being able to play Claw again, and just really hamming it up, but in the best ways possible. I mean, it just looked like he was having a blast just being this character. And I also enjoyed the humor. It felt really organic. It didn't feel too forced. And I will say there was one or two times where I could have kind of was like, that one was a little iffy. But other than that, really, there was just the right amount of humor, and it was very well placed. And I thought the same with a lot of the action, seeing the different fight scenes. And yeah, David, I'll agree that there are some times when the CG is, you can see it at work with certain aspects of when the Black Panther is fighting or when they're fighting. You see those aspects there.
And but I mean, overall, I would say overall it's good. I mean, it wasn't all the time. But I don't know. I think it was still just enough that I was like slightly disappointed by it, if that makes sense. But anyway, go on.
I actually wanted to touch on that too, and I completely forgot, and I'm going to interject just because you mentioned it, Bobby. Like, my feeling wasn't so much of the CGI, but there are times when you can tell it was almost just a regular spandex suit that they had taped to him. Like, it just looked like he was just like in spandex. Like some of the headshots, it just didn't look like it was a believable like type of armor or mask or anything like that. But I mean, for the most part, it was like you said, David. That's very, very nitpicky, and it's
exactly.
And it's like in the grand scheme of things, when it came down to it, it's like it still looked great. It wasn't a Green Lantern, debacle or anything like that. It was just like, oh, okay, that's clearly just spandex, and they painted a little purple on there, and boom, there you go. So anyways, sorry, go ahead.
And when
Bobby.
I compare it to the way that we saw Black Panther move in Civil War, which I get that he wasn't in the movie that much, but he definitely had his fair share of action scenes.
Yeah.
And I thought he looked always excellent in Civil War. I never felt like in Civil War like it looked a little too computer generated, but I did get that feeling when I watched this. Sorry.
Yeah, there's I mean, we'll talk about the spoilers, but there's a scene where he's fighting, and I'm just like, ooh, this just looks all computery. Just way too much computer things happening. And at the same time, like, when I take that scene in context, I'm like, there's no way they could have done this scene without it being completely...
Right.
And it's like, on the side note, I'm like, there's really just no way they could have done this shot any other way at the same time. Like, it's... I don't know. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So, sorry, Bobby.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, and there's probably one thing that I would nitpick on, that even though I feel the movie did it very well, it's just sort of a thing that I've been noticing, and I'm looking forward to moving past it. But I'll get into that once we get into spoilers.
All right. Now I'm interested.
But obviously, like I said, just to sort of wrap around everything, is just that I really, really loved the movie and thought it was just an experience that isn't really repeatable. Even when the Black Panther 2 comes out, it can't live up to what this first movie did in terms of being the first and doing the things that it's done. So it's overall just such a really good movie to see, but it's also a once-in-a-lifetime experience and something for people to go see if they haven't had a chance to see it yet this weekend.
All right. Well, I guess that leaves us to spoilers.
Spoilers!
So...
Spoiler time! This is spoilers! All of this is spoilers! If you haven't seen it, don't watch.
Yeah. If you...
That's your official spoiler warning?
Spoilers.
Yeah, that was a recording.
Spoilers.
Michelle totally didn't just do that. That's our new... That's our new drop for spoilers. No, anyone who has not seen Black Panther yet, we would all recommend that you stop listening or watching at this point and come back and listen to the rest of the podcast later. And I think it sounds like we can all highly recommend you go see the movie right now. So yeah, spoilers from here on out. I guess normally the way we kind of cover this, we'll just kind of go in the same order. We can all kind of give our spoiler thoughts in the film. I'm first, so I don't know what I'm going to say.
I almost want to let Bobby go right now. I feel like maybe we should go backwards. Because now I'm like on edge. I'm like, what the hell's Bobby got?
What's this thing he's talking about?
I know. I'm so like, maybe we should go backwards on spoilers.
Well, I won't say much, but I will say... I don't know. I mean, maybe for now, I'll just kind of reference a couple things I talked about in my non-spoiler review. Like, and again, this was nitpicky stuff, but like back on the humor thing, and again, super nitpicky. But like, if there was one moment I think I kind of rolled my eyes at, it was that moment when the car gets destroyed. And she's sliding down behind the steering wheel.
Lupita Nyong'o's character.
And I was like, really? Did we have to do that? But
I laughed at that. I thought it was funny.
You did?
I will say,
it was funny too. I kind of liked it. I was like, oh, that's cute.
I felt like that was a little too Looney Tunes for me.
Yeah,
it was a little bit too... Yeah.
It took me out of the movie a little bit.
I agree.
So I was not a big fan of that moment.
Like seeing Lupita Nyong'o just sitting there skidding, holding the steering wheel, I was like, wow, did she just turn into Wile E. Coyote? What the hell just happened? Like, I just was kind of like, I'll agree. That one scene, the humor wasn't hitting. But for me, the humor hit on the one scene when they were questioning, what's his name?
Everett Ross? Or no, when they're questioning Claw?
Yeah, when they're questioning Claw, but like Everett Ross is out there and he's talking to T'Challa. T'Challa's got his general with him. And I guess Ross touches T'Challa and she gives him this look like, I am going to kill this son of a bitch. like, did he just, what the hell, did he just touch you? No, he did not. And I'm like, oh gosh, she's gonna kill him. Like, I thought the thing my first thought was, she's going to kill him. She's going to kill him very quickly. This is going to happen. And she even says to him, like, if he touches you again, I'm going to impale him on that desk. Like, I was watching him like, oh my God, I thought that was hilarious. Like, I was dying because the face she makes was just like, no, he did not just touch you. I was like, oh my God, she's going to kill him. She's going to kill him.
It was very matter of fact, like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was.
No, it did not just happen.
Right, and it was just done so well, and that's, I think, for me, the humor. I like that there was, for the most part, other than the car scene, I feel like the humor was very subtle, and it was very kind of like chill, and you just kind of have to know kind of the people a little bit and their personalities to understand some of the humor. And I liked that the humor was a little bit deeper than just constant like Looney Tunes stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm totally stealing your spoiler section.
You have nothing to steal, really. I mean,
was just trying to...
Yeah, no. That was really all I was going to bring up at this point. I was going to kind of maybe go to the rest of you guys and kind of feed off of that. One thing that just pops into my head right now that you talking about that scene, it's funny. Sometimes I think when you see an actor do an accent that you're not used to them doing, I sometimes have a problem with. Do I think that their accent's not that good, or is it just that I'm just not used to this actor doing this? And I feel like I had that reaction to Martin Freeman in Civil War, where I felt like in Civil War I was like unsure, like, is he doing a good American accent, or is he doing a bad American accent, or is it just that I'm not used to him speaking this way? But I will say in this movie, I never thought that way. I thought I was going to say, I thought you were going to say something bad. I was like, wow, I thought he did a really good American accent. No, I was going to say, I feel like in this movie, I either have now just gotten over it, and I think I'm like, okay, now I'm used to it, or maybe he got a little better in this one, because his accent in this seems solid. When in Civil War, I was kind of like, I don't know, but
I can argue a little bit for this one, because I feel that in Civil War it was bad, and I feel like in certain scenes in this film it was good, and certain scenes it wasn't good. Like basically the I guess the gambling place where they were at.
In Korea. Yeah,
in Korea. So they're in this gambling scene, and the whole time he's in that, I was like, oh my God, his accent is fucking atrocious.
Really?
And mind you,
I wouldn't have thought that at all.
It's the first time that we get to see him in the film. So it's also just a kind of a jolt for me, for Martin Freeman to not have a British accent. So I've kind of thought about this, because I did think about this through most of the film. Then there's the scene where he's actually doing the interrogation. And the interrogation scene, I was like, his accent seems very spot on. And it seems much more relaxed and comfortable. And I feel like he just went in and out of it in different scenes throughout the movie. There were scenes where I was like, he seems very comfortable. And there's other scenes where I was like, it just sounds like he's really trying so hard. Like, by the end of the film, when he's doing the kind of, I guess... I don't know. He's being the pilot for the plane, via the computer system.
Right.
And when he's in that scene, he seemed very comfortable and relaxed, and I feel like his accent was doing well. But in prior scenes, it just didn't seem quite right. Like, when they went to the mountains and they were talking to the tribe leader there, and then when they were
tribe or whatever.
Yeah, and then when they were in the scene. When he first wakes up from the surgery and he's talking to, I can't think, T'Challa's sister.
Shuri.
Yeah, so he's talking, and I felt like his accent was kind of mixed there too. So I feel like it was just certain scenes it was good, and other scenes it wasn't, and it kind of bugged me the scenes it wasn't, because I was just like, oh my God, I can't. But yeah, I've had the same, like, is it just because I'm so ridiculously used to Martin Freeman's traditional British accent that this is jarring for me? And I've gone back and forth, but I'm like, no, I feel comfortable enough to say, like, there were scenes it was good and there were scenes it was bad. So
yeah, because in this movie I didn't really feel that way. I felt like most of this movie it was better than I thought it was in Civil War anyway. But
I'm saying this and I'm just being super nitpicky, quite honestly.
Right, no,
like at the end of the day, like, I'm very happy with the film. I love Martin Freeman.
Right.
Whatever. I think for me the only other, like, thing in spoilers that was kind of a negative, and it goes along with the whole CGI thing, is there was definitely times where I feel like the suit was overly worked in ways, and certain fight sequences were overly worked in CGI, and it was kind of like, oh no. I like the scene where he and Killmonger are fighting and they're free falling through into the mine.
Yep.
And I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh god! But at the same time, like, I don't think you can physically make two humans fight free falling through a mine like that. Like, something's really doable. But I'm watching it, and it just seemed really overly CGI, and it seemed really computerized, and it seemed a little bit rough at points. Like, I was just kind of like, oh. But overall, like, I don't know. I think I'm just crazy happy with this film. Like, I just thought everybody did such a spectacular job, and like, right. I feel like the fight sequences were amazing, especially the fight sequences in the casino. That was amazing. Oh my god. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there are times I literally just wanted to stand up and be like, yeah, girl, kick his ass. Like, it was just so good. I was just like, oh my god, this is so good. Like,
sorry, I dug the hell out of how they choreographed all the fight scenes, how the camera would follow them from spot to spot, especially her in the casino where she was tearing people apart, and then it followed her in her jump. I was like, oh, right. Hell yeah. That is sick.
That was so sick. Like, she, like, kind of jumped and slid down, not even a banister. She, like, glided down this jump. I was like, what is she? Does she levitate? What the fuck just happened? It was amazing. So good. And I was just cheering. I was just like, oh my god, this is so good. It's such a good fight sequence.
One thing I was going to mention, you and I talked about this once off air, Michelle. One thing I was kind of not a fan of about this movie leading into it was I was kind of worried about. I was like, okay, in the trailers you see that he has this suit that is kind of Iron Man-like in that he can just kind of whip it up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, the mask can just kind of like appear and just disappear.
Right.
And I remember watching these trailers and thinking, all right, so I guess we're kind of moving on to that tech very quickly. I get that this is Wakanda and they're extremely advanced, right. So I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, we've only seen him before in Civil War, and obviously his suit was not like that in that movie.
Right,
you know, he had a mask, he had to take it off and everything.
And in this film, it explains the upgrade.
But then this movie, you know, we have that James Bond scene where we see the upgrade.
Like he's hanging out with Q, but it's his sister.
Yeah.
So adorable.
And I mean, in the end, it worked for me. I was like, okay. But then at the same time, even still, I feel like, it's just so convenient that now you can just have this necklace. And
right, the necklace makes everything just appear.
And it just comes out of the necklace. I don't know. But I guess my takeaway when I saw the movie in the context and after that scene where it's explained, I was like, okay, it's cool. Part of me still is like not a huge fan of it. Like I like the more practical, hey, this is a suit. This is my mask. I don't know why. I
think for me, like, I know what you're saying. Like, and while I'm very happy with the way it turned out and them explaining like how the whole thing happens, there's something gratifying about watching somebody like hold a helmet and take a helmet off, or a helmet and a face mask. And I think it's because it's such a reveal. I feel like it reveals it in such a cooler way. And the argument can be made that it slowly can melt backwards into whatever and kind of slowly envelop your face as it goes on. But when it's actually like a headgear that you actually are taking off,
right?
I don't know. There's something about that. Like watching it kind of go on. It's like, all right, last piece of the suit and on. Like, it just, It feels like it's finalized when it goes on. And then it feels like, oh, you want to know my secret identity? You want to know my secret identity? Boom! There's the map. Like, it just, I don't know. It's just like, it's hard to explain on the radio. But there's just this feel to it, watching it slowly come off with the person's own hands. Like, they're willing this reveal to you. And, or they're like, this is the final piece before I go in and kick your ass. And they're putting it on, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So I think for me, that's why I like having a more traditional headgear. But at the same time, like, I get it. They're totally their tech is just otherworldly at this point.
Right.
So, but I'm good with spoilers. That's about all I got.
Yeah, Yasha, anything you wanted to bring up in spoilers?
Until we get to the.
I mean, I will
credits.
say that. I
do want to talk
in credits. I definitely
we'll talk about that later.
Something I want to say about one of them. But anyway, Yasha.
As far as the spoilers go, honestly, I mean, you guys have touched on a lot of stuff. I mean, just, you know, things that are story related. Like, I was completely shocked when Claw was taken out. That blew me away. I was not ready for that. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a great idea that they did that, and then it just kind of showed how evil Killmonger really was and how centralized his goals were. Like he was going to get to what he needed to in a heartbeat. But I'm sorry, I don't have really anything to add.
No worries.
Actually, I thought of something else. I think for me, my big surprise was Wakabi's total yep, you know what? F it all. Killmonger, he killed the guy that killed my parents. I give him 100% backing support. I was
yeah, that's true.
I was kind of like, wow, you just turned on your best friend, and you know your best friend is like a million times more capable of being the king of the nation. But you're like, no. That dude killed the dude that killed my parents, so he gets my vote. He just
you don't buy in. You don't buy into his complete.
He just jumps on board wholeheartedly, completely. He's willing to send his faction, his tribe faction, up against everybody else. And I was like, what the fuck? They died and made you what the hell?
Yeah, I'm with you there, especially at that point.
He was totally
I bought into it, when he initially is like, okay, I'm going to back this guy. I think he should be king, and blah, blah, blah. But it does seem a bit... It didn't quite work for me when we do get to the point where we're at full-on battle.
Yeah.
And he had a couple moments where I felt like he should have seemed maybe more conflicted. And
he didn't.
He really, maybe there was a slight hesitation, but for the most part, he was just like, nope,
nope, charge.
Fight.
We're fighting. I'm calling my rhinos, and we're doing this. And I was just like, whoa. Hold the freaking phone.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
That kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I will say. And I'm saying that, it was the whole character thing. When it actually comes to Daniel Kaluuya, I love him.
Right.
I want to make out of it this face.
Oh, okay.
But otherwise, I think the character, I just thought it was just very well, we're just going to throw out 30 years of our friendship and knowing each other since the day we were born, but it's cool. Whatever.
Right. Yasha, what were you going to say?
No, I was actually, Michelle beat me to it. I was just like, we're just going to throw out all my friendship. And yep, I'm on board with this guy. This guy showed up. I don't even know his last name. What was your last name again, bro? Yeah, no, whatever, man. I'm all on board.
Oh, you're the cousin of my best friend who's actually suitable to become a king because he spent the moment. He's been born learning how to become a king and take care of a nation and dictate and yada yada. But no, it's cool. You're just his cousin from L.A.? Psh, we're good, dude. What the fuck? Hell no.
All right. Well, Bobby, your spoiler thoughts.
I'm good now. I'm done.
What? Well,
I'm good till we get to credits.
Oh, okay. I guess there's a few things that I wanted to get into with the spoilers, and one of the first things is just the way the movie started and how you hear the voiceover of so that's the part that was interesting to me, because when I'm first listening to it, I'm like, okay, T'Chaka's talking to T'Challa about how they became vibranium in Africa and Wakanda, and then I'm listening to it and I'm like, why is T'Challa sound so American? And then after you start watching the movie and you get back to realizing that was actually the character of Sterling K. Brown's character talking to talking to a young Eric Killmonger. And so it's like, oh man. So he was telling him this story and he was relating it to how, this is his home and this is this place that he doesn't get to go to. And I thought, even just within the little bit of part that Sterling K. Brown had in the movie, I really enjoyed his scenes with being with King T'Chaka, a young King T'Chaka, and just that whole setup of him being this person that's kind of come from Wakanda and wants to. That's when we say the movie is very political. It has its origins even from the beginning of that part of why they split, and it was this whole idea of that what Wakanda should be doing and the power and the abilities that Wakanda is able to produce by using vibranium. Should that be shared with the world, or should it be used to conquer the world and to run it in a way that they see fit? And it's that whole duality that you got in the first generation of T'Chaka and Joby, and then their sons, which is obviously part of the spoilers that you find out that Michael B. Jordan's character, Eric Killmonger, is the cousin of T'Challa. And I thought that they handled that really, really well. And the aspect that I found interesting was when they show King T'Chaka back in that flashback when they're back in Oakland. And I remember thinking, dang, that could have been Wesley Snipes. Like, because the character, the actor who was King T'Chaka kind of had this Wesley Snipes look about him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that would have been cool if that would have been a little surprise guest cameo of Wesley Snipes being King T'Chaka. But then I was starting to think about it. I was like, maybe the fact that they didn't use him means that they may have him in mind for something else later on down the line. Because it just seems like it would have went perfect because of the fact that Wesley Snipes had ties to trying to do a Black Panther movie back in the day. But then it never happened. So he ended up being Blade and all that stuff. But I think I really liked that whole political side of it, where there's this aspect that T'Challa believes is that we've been going this way for so long, and there's a reason, because the rest of the world, if we share this with them, they're not going to know how to act. Everybody's going to do what their human base needs and desires are going to be, which is looking out for themselves, as opposed to trying to use this as a way to make everybody better and lift everybody up. And then you have on the other side of that, Lupita Nyong'o's character, Nakia, she believes in the idea of trying to help other people with what Wakanda can do. And trying to get to that point, there's this whole inner turmoil, and that's where a lot of that fighting came into play, is that Killmonger believes that we're just going to take everything over and really pay back the world for the way they treated millions of Black people over the hundreds of years and around the world. Yeah. And so it's just from that political side of it, just so interesting that you see this in a Marvel film play out. And I thought that was really, really well done. I guess I'll get to some of the things that I didn't quite take to as far as the humor. There was two points where, and it actually involves the same character. It was M'Baku's character when they were at his place in the mountains, and they were talking about being a vegetarian, and he was laughing, and I was like, oh, that's funny. And then he kind of kept laughing, and I was like, they could have cut that a little short. You know, it didn't quite. Aww. It worked for me, and then it went on a little too long.
See, I thought he was just laughing at himself, kind of like, man, I'm just so damn funny. I'm just going to keep on laughing because I'm that funny.
It was just like, And then the other part, which I thought was funny, but at the same time, it felt like I could feel the Marvel humor of it aspect, was when they were having this really heartfelt scene. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you hear M'Baku like yawning. And he's like, could you guys like go? And it's like, it was funny, but it felt like that humor that Marvel does, is where there's some dramatic tension or something really sort of sentimental or whatever, and then they undercut it with some humor. So, but that's like sort of minor nitpicks for me in terms of the humor. Overall, it still really worked. Even within those scenes, it worked. It just, I could have done with a smidge less of it. And then I guess the other aspect that I didn't like, but I get it because these are movies and they're not comic books, but I really hate when we get good villains and then they kill them off, because it's so rare, and then you never get to see them again once they kill them off.
Right.
But I get
like
it
the
from
bad
a
ones
movie
just keep
perspective.
going forever.
Yeah, and from a movie perspective, you're not going to reintroduce Killmonger again into a movie, because you can only make so many of these movies, and they're not like comic books where a new issue comes out every month, and so you can reuse villains or recycle them, or after a while, you only get so many shots, so you want to tell a different story with a different villain or a different antagonist. And so I get it, but it just kind of sucks that they have to get wasted in that way, that you can't see them again, especially when they're really good. The aspect that I guess I was talking about before we got into spoilers that I thought the movie handled really well, but I'm kind of at the point where I'm hoping this is the last of it before we move past it, is the theme that's been very prevalent in a ton of Marvel movies, especially if you really start to think about it, is the whole idea of the father-son dynamic. And we had it just we saw it in Thor Ragnarok, where Odin and his lies in terms of having this daughter had the whole thing where she came back for revenge. You kind of see that echoed a little bit in Black Panther, where there's this child that was of kin but was hidden away, and he comes back looking for his revenge. And then you also get aspects of that with Iron Man, with his father and unresolved dad issues. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with his father. So it's this theme that keeps kind of coming back up throughout these movies. And now that I think that we've kind of gone through it and run the gamut of all these different characters, I think we'll move past it and get into some other internal struggles that don't have to do with this parental aspect of that we constantly see. So that was my only other really thing about it that I did. I think they pulled it off very well in the movie, but it's a theme that I think I've seen so many times that I'm ready to see something else thematically in terms of something that can be used as a point of contention in the movies.
I agree. The father-son thing is a little bit played out, but at the same time, I feel like they had such a good relationship, and the only really drama part of rift in their relationship was this whole situation between his uncle/brother and cousin. And I mean, the king even says, like, at one point, he even says to him, what was it? It was a really good quote. He says to him, T'Challa, you're a good man with a good heart, and it's hard for a good man to be a king. And he's just trying to say, like, look, like, nobody's perfect, and you're going to make mistakes. However, because you're such a good man, you're going to be such a good man that you might actually fail sometimes as a king. Whereas I'd prefer to fail as a man, but be an excellent king. I think that was kind of the whole. I don't know. It worked well for me in this film. I feel like, but I know what you're saying. Like, it is a bit played out in the Marvel universe, and I will agree. I really do hope we do kind of progress past this father-son dynamic all the time being the big conflict within the main character. So.
I wanted to touch on something that Bobby said just a second ago in regards to the villains. Like, I agree with you 100%, Bobby. It's a shame that we lose some of these iconic, huge villains, really great villains, and, we'll never probably see again. We're definitely not going to see another Killmonger, that's for sure. But, I mean, case in point, the Red Skull is one. I would love to see the Red Skull again. I mean, there's no definitive reasoning as to why he wouldn't be around or kind of pop in, maybe there's something with the Tesseract. I mean, they could write him in, but that's never been hinted at. That's never been approached. That's never been any type of tease or anything like that. So I agree with you 100% where it's like, I wish that we wouldn't lose these great villains and one and done and just call it a day.
Yeah, like, I'm kind of sad in a way that Vulture lived. Like, because I was kind of like, and I love Michael Keaton, but I was not that impressed with Vulture as a bad guy in Homecoming, and or Michael Keaton's portrayal as Vulture. I mean, it was okay, it was fine, but I mean, I will say I'm kind of like, I don't really want to see Vulture again. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't really want to see him come back. I'm okay.
I mean,
I liked him.
I liked him too. I would say in that specific case. I mean, I think him living in that movie is just the right way for that plot to play out. But I don't really think of it as like there's a really quite a possibility we are going to see him again. If I had to place a bet, I'd say that's probably not going to happen.
I don't know that, but just the knowledge that he's alive is kind of like, okay. Anyways.
Well, the way I would see Michael Keaton coming back again would be if when he did finally come around to signing that deal to be the Vulture, if he signed some sort of 2-picture deal and then he comes back and eventually they do some sort of Sinister Six movie, because that's the only other reason I see why you would really kind of keep that character alive is being part of a Sinister Six. Right. But yeah, I get that.
But we digress. Well, what were you going to say, Bobby, before I go on?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say there was a couple scenes that I did really enjoy, and they almost had nothing, little to no. Obviously, the casino scene is really excellent, like you guys mentioned, especially with the camera and the way it follows the action and everything that's going on within that scene. But one of the smaller scenes that I really loved and got a kick out of was just the part where we mentioned it a little bit earlier, where Shuri is showing T'Challa some of the tech that she's built, and she's showing him the new suit, and she's like, just go ahead and kick it. And then he kicks it, and he kicks it across the room. She's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, coming to my lab, kicking stuff? And she's like, all right, kick it again. And then he kicks it in the same spot, and he goes flying, and she's recording this whole thing, and he's like gasping for air as he kicks it, and he flies across the room. He's like, delete the footage. And it's just, it plays so well because she was recording him, knowing that was going to happen, being like this bratty little sister, and playing into that aspect of them being really loving each other, but still having that brother-sister mentality of messing with each other. So that played really well with me. And then one of the other parts that I really did enjoy was just the part towards the end where I thought it was more powerful than anything, but it's when Killmonger is gasping. He's sort of on his deathbed at this point, and then they go and look at Wakanda from the landscape, and then T'Challa's still trying to be helpful. He wants to right this wrong and not let him die, even though they were just in mortal combat in terms of fighting for life. And then Killmonger is like, no, I'd rather die than be locked up, and I'd rather you bury me at sea, and so I can escape these bonds like my ancestors couldn't. They would rather have jumped off the ship than to be bonded in slavery. And I thought that was like something really powerful, and I really thought that was good. And then you just see him take the blade out and just collapse over and die, and it was like, man, it was a good scene. And then I like the hopefulness in which it ended on when T'Challa goes back to Oakland, and he had bought the buildings around and decided to turn it into something for hopefulness and a way to be able to uplift that community and start something there in the United States. And I thought that was really a good way to end off and send it into the next era, into where it will go after this.
Yeah, and then that leads into the after credit scenes that we haven't talked about yet. And that, I feel like, perfectly kind of captures what I was going to say about that mid-credit scene. Because I will say, I mean, and you guys obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like overall with these two scenes, the mid-credit scene and the after credit scene, there's not a lot to really discuss about them. But with that said, I was going to comment on that mid-credit scene because I guess there's been a lot of rumblings that, that scene should have been in the movie. Maybe that scene should have ended the film and not been a mid-credit scene. Right. And I'm, of course, talking about the UN scene. And I couldn't disagree with that more. Like, I completely agree with you, Bobby. Like, I love the way the movie ends in Oakland. I think it's perfect. And if anything, I would argue that the mid-credit scene that we end up seeing kind of takes away from that slightly. And because in a lot of ways, too, the way that last cut of each of those scenes is very similar. It's a shot of Black Panther and him, obviously thinking about something, or like, in the case of the mid-credit scene that, he hasn't answered that question yet about what they have to offer the world.
Yeah, he just smirks.
And in a way, like that, I feel like the mid-credit scene takes a little bit away from the after-credit scene. I almost kind of wish it didn't even exist. I mean, I feel like I get why it does, and I'm cool with it. But I will say I'm very happy that they did it as a mid-credit scene and not in the film.
Yeah, so I agree. Yeah, on one side, I get why they had it in there, and yeah, it's nice kind of having him end it with his, all-knowing smirk that he kind of gives the UN. And I'm like, this is really awesome. What an awesome moment to be like, you have no idea. I'm about to blow your minds with what I have to offer you. But yeah, no, I feel like, you know, in Oakland, it ends so well. And so, like, I'm giving back to the community. I'm giving back, and I'm going to try to rebuild and make things better and try to pull people together into a better place. Whereas with the UN one, it was, I don't know, it didn't give me the warm fuzzies the same way. Not that that's a bad thing. It was more, I feel like it was just more Marvel kind of set up for more things with Infinity War, and that's fine. It just, I don't know. I'm glad the film ended the way it did, and I'm glad that the UN scene was a mid-credit scene. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I was gonna, excuse me. I was gonna say how it reminded me when you said something about Oakland that I wanted to swing back to real quick. Is just that there was a part when Killmonger is dying, and he mentioned something like, you know, it's not bad for a kid growing up in Oakland believing in fairy tales. And when he said that, I immediately thought that was Ryan Coogler speaking of himself in terms of making this movie, because he did grow up in Oakland. And for him to go from Oakland, where he lived in this area, obviously not the greatest place to live, and to be now making this big Marvel movie that millions of people are going to see and watch, it's like a fairy tale. And so I thought that was, excuse me, very apropos of him to put that in there, talking in a sense about himself and about the character as well. But the other thing I was going to say, as far as that mid-credit scene, I agree that it deserved to be a mid-credit scene, but the reason that I do like that they did it and don't necessarily feel that it undercuts the regular ending of the movie is because I feel like that part is that little extra thing that's setting up where the potential Black Panther 2 movie could go, because now that he's going to reveal what Wakanda is to the world, that becomes, to me, the impetus of what the second movie would be. Like, how does this get done in terms of trying to spread these things out? How does it backfire? Because you know there's going to be some bad things to happen. Won't there be people who'll be upset that Wakanda waited this long when they were just watching the world kind of crumble around them when they could have helped sooner? And there's all these things that you can tell you can play off of as themes in that sequel to a Black Panther movie that I think that scene helps set up in terms of where that story could go. And then obviously the final one that we haven't talked about yet leads into where Infinity War could play into as well.
Right. Yasha, any thoughts?
No, actually, you guys have pretty much epitomized everything that I was thinking about it. And no, I'm actually don't have anything to add on this time.
Well, speaking of that last scene, I don't know, Bobby, since you just kind of mentioned it, anything you want to kind of lead off with that as to what's going on in that last scene?
Yeah, well, so you see the scene opens and it's from a top down or a bottom up view, and it's from the perspective of someone that we don't see, and you see these young African kids looking down at this person, and then they run out of this hut and they go to Shuri's character, and she's like, "Are you guys messing with that man again?" And then we see as he comes out that it's Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, and he still is missing his arm. And she asked him, you know, how is he doing? And he's feeling better. And then she's like, okay, we have much to discuss. And so they kind of walk off, and it ends that way. And obviously that's a setup for Infinity War, because if you've seen the trailer, you know he has his arm again. And so the assumption would be that Shuri probably makes a vibranium arm for Bucky to have going into the next movie. And there is also a tie-in comic book I know that I think it leads into, I want to say, the Infinity War movie.
Like the White Wolf comment?
It's big. What's that?
The White Wolf comment? What the kids were calling him?
Well, there is that White Wolf comment, but that's sort of a play on. I guess there's a character in the Black Panther comic books that's a white Caucasian character that becomes an adopted brother of T'Challa and becomes a sort of a special forces cop kind of person, and he could potentially be that person going forward for the universe in
like
terms of if he stayed, like if he stays in Wakanda and kind of adopts that as his home instead of being in America, where I'm sure he's still a fugitive. So it would be where he would live. But what I was referring to is I think there's a comic book that is a one-shot comic that is about Shuri and Winter Soldier and getting him back to the way he was in terms of, I guess she is able to
rehabilitate
to
rehabilitate him from the mind washing.
The short end of it is that she's able to essentially take an imprint of his mind, set it aside, reboot his mind, and put it back onto his body or whatever. And that take out the trigger words. She was able to take out the trigger words. So now he's who he was before all of that, but he still has all this mental anguish because he's done all these bad things. But he's essentially Bucky without the triggers. Right. So that comic is out there if anyone wants to check that out.
Cool. I mean, I know I don't really have anything to kind of share on that final scene. I mean, thought it was fine, I guess.
It's like, oh, look at Bucky all rehabbed up.
I think it was needed because we all knew that he was there. And so it's like, if they hadn't touched on it in any kind of way, you'd be kind of wondering where was he this whole time or whatever. So
they definitely weren't hiding in the palace.
I like the fact that they threw that in at the final end credit scene.
I mean, I had a feeling that they were going to throw it in there too, especially when Shuri mentioned it, halfway through the film when they brought in
Ross.
When they brought in Ross, oh, look, another white boy for me to fix. And it was like, I mean, I was hoping that he was going to come in, and as soon as the credits started with the little kids and she was like, are you messing with that man again? I was like, this has got to be Bucky. I can't imagine it being anybody else right now. And, the minute he popped up, I was like, okay, great. And that's why I think, some of the criticism of these after credits scenes are so harsh. I don't understand it. It's like, it's almost just a really nice, quick way to just lead into the next movie without having a huge explanation going into the next movie.
They're just nice little nods.
What's that?
It's just a nice little nod. Just a little like,
a nice little hint. It's like, hey, you guys remember Bucky. I know you guys remember Bucky. So look, Bucky's here, and this is why he's still in Wakanda. He's doing well, type of thing. It's almost like an update on a character that we needed to hear an update on. And I didn't mind it at all. It's just kind of moves right in.
Yeah, I would definitely say where was now I forget who said it now. The director of Logan, I forget the director's name all of a sudden, but for when he had the complaints about the end credit scenes and how it's like you're making up for not making a complete movie. I definitely feel like, and maybe in some aspects that I could understand that, but definitely it didn't pertain and fit to this because you really feel like you get a complete movie from start to finish with this. And then that those are just extra little goodies that you don't have to have, but it's nice that they're there. Agreed.
James Mangold is the name that you're looking for.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. It's like, on some aspects, he might be speaking to the truth and, have a very valid point. But on others, it's just like that little nod right there to Bucky. I felt like that was just warranted. It was just a very quick little, what was it? Maybe even 20, 25-second scene.
Right.
That just gets us excited for Avengers, which is what's next, I think, So why not put that in there?
We all know that, Yasha, you are ridiculously excited for Infinity War.
Oh yeah, I'm so amped for Infinity War. I can't wait. Like, I'm really ready to watch that movie. Like I get an emotional, visceral response every time that I watch the trailer, and I watch the trailer probably about once every 5 to 7 days, maybe once a week or every other, around 8 to 9 days or something like that. For whatever reason, I decide that I want to go back and watch it again. So I'm ready. Like how some of my friends talked about, they were ready to watch Black Panther. I am very ready to watch Infinity War. I am excited.
I feel like you're our little cheerleader of the group for Infinity War, because I feel like you'll watch it every 5 to 7 days, and then you'll like send a message to all of us, like in our little private conversation that we have, and you're like, "Hey guys, guess what? Infinity War is happening." you constantly slowly just gently nudge us to be like, don't forget, Infinity War is coming.
Well, I know that I've sent out the little cheerleader message to everybody. I've sent out the message to everybody just every once in a while. I was like, hey, watched Infinity War again.
Still
just
awesome.
Want everybody to know.
Yeah, you are the Infinity War cheerleader of the group for sure.
Right.
This has been culminating for so long. And Bobby knows. It's like Bobby and I have talked about this. We both were just super excited when this started to kind of come around, and we're just like, I can't believe that this is actually happening. And then it's just getting closer and closer. And when they really started to reveal who they're going to have in it and everything, what's going on, it's just like, man, this is so exciting. This is so exciting.
Yeah. We're almost there.
We are almost there. What is it? May 4th? Yeah. Yeah, we're almost there.
And then Deadpool. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like that. Deadpool, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, the beginning of 2019. I mean, I'm not excited.
No, not at all.
The next thing I need is just an actual Venom trailer, because what I look at is what we got, not really a Venom trailer.
Right.
But that's all I really want now, and then my summer will basically be ready. Even though it comes out next fall, but I'm good.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Should you not be?
I'm just saying, I feel like the way Yasha's the cheerleader for Infinity War, I'll be like, hey guys, guess what? 27 days to Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm stupid excited for that film, and it's so funny because if you would have asked me a few years ago, would I ever be excited about Marvel's Ant-Man series, I'd have been like, you freaking crazy. Why would I get excited? And I remember getting excited for Ant-Man, and I saw it, I was like, damn, I love this movie. And now I'm just stupid excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I'm like, God, I literally, I'm giddy thinking about this film. I really, really am. I love watching Evangeline Lilly just kick ass.
I just feel like we're getting spoiled, with how many of these are being released in a short span of time, and then it's gonna feel like forever between Ant-Man and Captain Marvel.
It is. It is gonna feel like forever, and that's another film I'm crazy excited to see. Captain Marvel, hello.
Well, at least we'll have Aquaman in between Ant-Man and Captain Marvel.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about Marvel movies. Yeah, no.
Okay.
We got Venom, and we've got like you said, another DC film, Aquaman, but in terms of the MCU, it seems like with 3 MCU movies coming out within a very small span of time this year. The beginning, they're all shoved at the beginning of the year, basically,
and then there's an 8-month gap,
which is going to be like, oh God, I'm having to wait 8 months,
8 whole months until Captain Marvel.
This is the worst.
Although
ever.
I will say, I'll be less worried about that gap between Ant-Man and Captain Marvel than I will be about the gap between Avengers 3 and Avengers 4, because wherever Avengers 3 leaves off, it won't pick back up until 4. I'm sure.
Yeah, but you only got a year wait though.
I was gonna say that one's almost right after Captain Marvel.
Well, I just mean in terms of my anticipation as far as having a gap there,
because it's not just going to be like you're saying. Oh, probably Avengers 3 is not going to feel like a complete enough film.
Yeah.
Even though these movies were originally supposed to be a part 1 and part 2, and now they've kind of played they're not like that anymore. They're 2 different movies.
Right.
I agree with you. I think most likely 3 is going to end, and it's going to feel like part 1 of 2. And you're going to be like, well, shit, now I'm sitting here on a cliffhanger for 12 months.
For a year, and I want to just blow my brains out now.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I agree. That is the most likely scenario there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Captain Marvel comes out in March, and then 2 months later, boom, there's
But literally,
Avengers 4.
but I mean, from Ant-Man and the Wasp to Captain Marvel, it's like 7.5 months. It's almost 8 solid months if you go by the dates.
Right.
Like, oh God, oh, really?
Whatever will we do?
What will we do with our lives? Anyways,
I think we've all said everything we wanted to say about Black Panther.
Yeah.
So
go see Black Panther, everybody.
Go see Black Panther if you're still listening and you haven't seen it for some reason.
Go see it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It completely. I feel like it revives the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like it was literally like the jolt with the electric paddle to the heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, it needed a little bit of resuscitation.
And I'm with you, though. I get the impression most people don't feel that way. I feel like most people think the MCU was just fine.
And they loved Thor, and they loved Guardians, too. And I can't fault them. I think they're fun films, but I think they didn't do anything additional for me and my feely goods in my heart for Marvel. But this was like getting somebody like pounding on your chest trying to revive you back to life. You're like, oh my god, I can breathe again. This is amazing. I can see the world. Like, I don't know. It just it for me it was a good, almost like a resurgence. Yeah. And I think yeah, no.
And I'll say one last thing, and I'm going to say one last thing that will probably lead into another 15-minute conversation. But
oh, God. We're never going to bed.
I just am going to say that you said something earlier, Bobby, that was interesting, and I agree with you in that you're not, how with a Black Panther 2, you're never going to be able to kind of recapture what this movie did. It's and I agree with you. I hadn't really thought about that yet.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And I wouldn't say that makes me worried about Black Panther 2, but it makes me really think that Black Panther 2 needs to be a very different movie. And I hope they do that. And with that said, like, I gotta say, I hope that they do find someone else to direct it, just to do something different. I think Ryan Coogler did an amazing job with this film.
He did an amazing job.
I will most likely, before we record our next show, if it's on Wednesday or next Sunday, I will probably watch Creed, and I will talk about it, because I've been wanting to watch it. I wanted to watch it before we did this, and it just didn't work out. But I want to watch Creed. I want to watch Fruitvale Station. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta say, my reaction right now, my thought is, you know what? I have a feeling it's going to be Coogler. Like,
yeah, but and that's fine.
I feel like you could find a really interesting director to direct a Black Panther movie for the second film and do something amazing, but yet very different from this, because I feel like it is going to need to be very different. Otherwise, it's going to be disappointing.
What? And I'm completely blanking on this director's name. And she is a spectacular director, but she's really coming to the forefront right now. She's an African American.
Ava DuVernay.
Yes. God, can
she
you
actually
imagine?
Turned it down the first time.
I know, but what if she was like, you know what? I'm down for following up Ryan. I can do this. I'll one up him. I would be like, yes.
Well, I'll definitely be interested in David, if you still feel that way after you've had a chance to see, for sure, Creed, and then maybe if you get to see Fruitvale Station, because all three of his movies so far are vastly different from each other.
Right.
And they're very much in a way that he is such a great storyteller, and that if he didn't direct the next one, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people upset, because they already are going to know his name. If they didn't before, they'll know it after this. But beyond that, what's that, Yasha?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just chiming in a little bit. Like, yeah, they definitely know it now.
Yeah,
right.
And if he's not the director, then I would have to say he probably needs to be executive producing on the next one. Same with how he's doing for Creed 2,
or at least screenwriting.
Yeah, well, something, because when you see his work on the other movies, you just automatically trust that he probably has something in mind he would like to say with the sequel that would be different. But, only time will tell.
And that's why I made that comment about having not seen his other films, because I acknowledge that. Like, I could see that I'll see his other movies and go, okay, he's got a very diverse background so far with the films he's done. Okay, yeah, he could pull off a Black Panther 2. But I've said before, my feelings on when directors, kind of stay with a franchise and maybe they, I don't know. I feel like we've had franchises out there, trilogies or a couple movies where, that second and third movie could have been better if you got somebody fresh in
eyes.
there.
Yeah.
So that's where I come from right now. But yeah, maybe I'll see those two movies and go, yeah, no, okay. Yeah, he definitely needs to just make a trilogy of Black Panther movies, please. That would be amazing. So we'll see.
Right.
All right. Yep. With that, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. For everyone listening or watching, we would love to hear back from you. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com with your questions and comments. And we might read them on the air. So please talk to us, and we'd love to hear from you. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Flicker Effect, on Instagram at Flicker Effect, and on Twitter at Flicker_Effect. I'm David Lott.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
I was challenged the last time I was actually on the show, and I just want to say that I did complete my challenge.
No. Oh, no, I know. I just didn't think we were going to have time to get to that today. So.
No. I just want to make sure that people didn't think that I played down on it, because I did follow through.
You mean you didn't pull a Michelle and sit on it for 6 weeks?
I followed through with my homework assignment, and I did follow through on it. So I just want that to be put out there. So
good job.
Next time we talk, I'm happy to go through it.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Next show that we're all here for, we will definitely be revisiting our I Challenge You segment. All right. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hiller.
Thanks for listening.